I never thought I would end up crying in a bar wearing the black dress I bought specifically for tonight. The dress that was supposed to make Marcus look at me like I was the only woman in the world when he finally set our wedding date. But here I am at 11:47 on a Thursday night in the Velvet Room, with mascara running down my face and my second whiskey sour turning watery in my trembling hands. The bartender, an older man with kind eyes and silver hair whose name tag reads Gerald, keeps glancing my way with concern, but maintains a respectful distance, probably used to seeing people fall apart in expensive bars like this one, though I have never been here before and would never have chosen such an upscale place if I had anywhere else to go. My phone screen lights up again, the 47th missed call from Marcus, and I should block him, but instead, I find myself scrolling through his social media for the 100th time tonight, staring at the selfie he posted 2 hours ago with Victoria, his so-called business associate, the woman he has apparently been sleeping with for the past 6 months while I planned our future. The Velvet Room is all dark wood and burgundy leather, amber lighting that makes everyone look golden and mysterious, with jazz playing softly from hidden speakers, a sultry saxophone that seems designed to underscore heartbreak. Crystal glasses catch the light at the bar, reflecting fragments of conversations I cannot hear, and the air smells like expensive cologne and aged whiskey, and something else. Something that feels like power, the kind that comes from money made in ways people do not ask about. Rain has started outside, tapping against the tall windows that look out onto the city's glittering skyline, and I watch the droplets race down the glass while I try to hold myself together in public, mortified to be this woman, the one crying alone at a bar. But I could not face going back to the apartment I share with Marcus, could not face his things, or our bed, or the framed photo on the nightstand from last Christmas, when I still believed in us. My hands shake as I fumble with another cocktail napkin, dabbing uselessly at my eyes, and I know I look like a disaster, but I cannot seem to stop the tears, or the anger, or the humiliating need to keep checking if Marcus has posted anything else, if he is with her right now, if he is thinking about me at all. The bar is half full with well-dressed couples and business types, people having normal Thursday nights, people whose worlds have not just imploded, and I feel completely alone until I sense someone approaching, a shift in the air that makes me look up. He is the most striking man I have ever seen in person, maybe 32 or 33, with dark hair styled perfectly and green eyes that seem to miss nothing, wearing a charcoal suit that probably costs more than my monthly rent. And when our eyes meet, I feel something catch in my chest, because he is looking at me, with an intensity that should frighten me, but somehow does not. He dismisses someone with a subtle gesture, a man in a business suit who had been sitting with him at a corner table, and then he is walking toward me with a kind of predatory grace that suggests he always gets what he wants, though something makes him hesitate when he reaches my space at the bar. Gerald catches his eye and some silent communication passes between them, two fingers raised in what must be a code, and then this stranger is sliding onto the stool beside me uninvited, studying my profile like I am a puzzle he intends to solve. His voice when he speaks is low and surprisingly gentle, at odds with the controlled danger radiating from him. Gerald's whiskey sours are decent, he says, but they will not fix whatever made you cry like that. I should tell him to leave, that I want to be alone, but instead I hear myself say without looking at him that nothing will fix it. Some things are just broken, my voice thick with tears and too much alcohol. He shifts slightly, angling his body toward mine, and asks me to tell him who hurt me. And the question is so direct, so unexpected, that I finally turn to face him fully. Why, I ask, managing something almost like defiance despite my ruined makeup and shaking hands. What are you, some kind of knight in shining armor? The moment stretches between us, jazz and rain, and the low murmur of other people's conversations fading to background noise, and when he answers, his voice carries absolute conviction. No, he says, leaning closer until I can smell his cologne, something expensive with notes of cedar. I am something much more effective. His voice drops to near whisper, intimate and deadly serious. Tell me who hurt you, and whoever it was dies tonight. I promise you that. The way he says it makes my breath catch because this is not hyperbole, not some dramatic pickup line, not a joke. This is a simple statement of fact delivered by a man who clearly has the means and will to follow through, and I should be terrified, should grab my purse and run from this beautiful, dangerous stranger. But instead, I feel something shift inside me, some part of me that has spent the entire evening feeling powerless, suddenly recognizing that power sits beside me, offering itself like a gift. The amber light catches in his green eyes, and I notice details I should not be noticing given the circumstances. The strong line of his jaw, and the way his hands rest calmly on the bar, elegant and capable, the kind of hands that could hold you gently or destroy you completely. I realize I have been staring too long, and he has been letting me, patient in a way that suggests patience is not his natural state, and I wonder wildly who this man is. What kind of person makes an offer like that within 60 seconds of meeting someone? The rain intensifies outside, and someone laughs at the other end of the bar, and Gerald pours a drink for another customer. The world continuing. Normally, while mine tilts on its axis, and I know I am standing at a crossroads even though I am sitting perfectly still. This man with his perfect suit and dangerous promises represents something I do not understand, a world I have only glimpsed in movies and news reports. But in this moment, with my heart broken and my future shattered, I find I do not care about understanding. I only care about the way he is looking at me like I matter, like my pain is important, like he would actually burn down the world if I asked him to. Marcus never looked at me like this, not even in the beginning. Not even when he proposed 3 months ago in what I now realize was probably obligation rather than love, and the contrast makes something crack open in my chest. I take another sip of my whiskey sour, the ice mostly melted now, and I feel the alcohol mixing with exhaustion and heartbreak, and the strange electric awareness of the man beside me, the stranger who knows nothing about me except that I am crying and has decided that is enough reason to offer murder as comfort. The velvet room suddenly feels smaller, more intimate, like the rest of the bar has faded away, and there is only this moment, this choice, this man waiting for my answer with the kind of focus that suggests he has all night, that he has already decided I am worth his time, even though he does not know my name, or my story, or why Gerald's decent whiskey sours are not fixing anything. I should ask who he is, should demand credentials or explanations, should apply logic to this surreal situation. But logic has gotten me nowhere tonight. Logic and trust and 4 years of loyalty have left me alone and crying while my boyfriend posts pictures with another woman. So maybe it is time to try something else. Maybe it is time to say yes to the darkness instead of always choosing the light. Maybe it is time to let this beautiful, dangerous stranger keep his terrible promise. And as I open my mouth to respond, I have no idea what words will come out, but I know with absolute certainty that whatever I say next will change everything, will be the moment I either walk away from this and return to my safe, predictable, broken life, or step forward into something unknown and possibly catastrophic and definitely not safe at all, and the choice should be obvious, but nothing about tonight has been obvious. Nothing about the way he is looking at me or the way I am not running suggests I am capable of making the sensible decision anymore. I laugh when he says it, a bitter sound that comes out wrong, too harsh for this elegant bar with its amber lighting and soft jazz. Because surely this has to be a joke, some kind of extreme pickup line that men like him use on crying women in bars. But when I meet his eyes again, I see he is completely serious, and the laugh dies in my throat. Fine, I hear myself say, my voice still thick with alcohol and tears. You want to know who hurt me? I will tell you, though I do not know why. am confiding in this stranger, except that Marcus has been ignoring my calls all night, and I have nowhere else to put this anger, this humiliation, this feeling like my entire life has been a lie. His name is Marcus James Holloway, I begin, and the stranger beside me listens with a focus that feels different from normal listening, like he is gathering intelligence rather than offering comfort, his green eyes never leaving my face. We have been together 4 years, I continue, reaching for my watery drink and taking another sip even though I know I should stop. He proposed 3 months ago, got down on one knee in our apartment with his grandmother's ring, told me he wanted to spend forever with me, and like an idiot, I believed him. The stranger's jaw tightens slightly, but he says nothing, waiting for me to continue, and something about his patience makes the words pour out faster. We were supposed to have dinner tonight, I say, gesturing vaguely at my black dress. A special dinner where we would finally set a wedding date because he kept putting it off, always had some excuse about work being busy or wanting to wait for the right moment. 2 hours before our reservation, he texted me, could not even call, just sent a message saying he could not make it, that we needed to talk tomorrow, that it was important. I went to the restaurant anyway because I had already gotten dressed and I thought maybe he would show up, maybe it was just work running late. But he was there. My voice breaks on the last word, and I have to stop, have to breathe through the fresh wave of pain. He was there with her, I finally manage. Victoria Reeves, his so-called business associate from the investment firm, the one he always said I was being paranoid about when I asked why she texted him so late at night. They were at a table by the window, candles and wine and her hand on his, and I watched them kiss before I even made it through the door. The stranger's fingers drum once against the bar, a small movement that somehow conveys rage, and I find myself continuing, needing to get it all out now that I have started. I confronted them, I say quietly, walked right up to their table in front of everyone and demanded to know what was happening, and Marcus looked at me like I was ruining his evening, like I was the problem. He admitted everything right there, told me he had been seeing Victoria for 6 months, that he proposed to me out of obligation because we had been together so long, and he did not want to hurt me. But now he realizes he is in love with her and wants to be honest. The stranger makes a low sound, almost a growl, but I cannot stop now. Honest, I repeat, anger building in my chest. He wants to be honest after 6 months of lying, after proposing to me while sleeping with someone else, after making me believe we had a future together. Where does he work? The stranger asks suddenly, his voice calm but with an edge underneath. What? I say, confused by the question. His full name is Marcus James Holloway, the stranger repeats. Where does he work? At Holloway and Associates investment firm, I answer automatically, the alcohol and emotional exhaustion making me compliant. It is his family's company. His father started it. Marcus is being groomed to take over eventually. And where do you live? The stranger asks, still in that same measured tone. The apartment address, the building name if there is one. I give him the address, my building on Riverside Avenue, apartment 1203, and only after the words are out do I wonder why he is asking these specific questions, why he needs this information if he was just offering comfort to a crying woman. He pulls out his phone, expensive and sleek, and makes a call, and I watch as his entire demeanor shifts from the gentle stranger who approached me to something else entirely, something cold and dangerous. He speaks in Italian, rapid and authoritative, and I catch enough words to understand he is giving orders. Marcus Holloway's name, my address, instructions that make my blood run cold. The reality crashes down on me like the rain hammering against the windows. This man was not joking. He actually intends to follow through, and I grab his wrist before he can say anything else, my fingers barely circling the corded muscle there. Wait, I say, panic cutting through the alcohol fog. I did not mean, you cannot just, who are you? He ends the call, slides the phone back into his pocket, and turns to me with that predatory focus I noticed when he first approached. And I realize I have made a terrible mistake. I am someone who keeps promises, he says simply. Like that explains everything. I do not know who you think you are, I say, my voice rising slightly before I remember we are in public. But you cannot just kill someone because they cheated on their girlfriend. That is insane. He studies me for a long moment, his green eyes reflecting the amber bar lights, and says with perfect calm that he can do exactly that, and he will. But you are right, he continues, and something about his tone makes me stop trying to pull away from his wrist. You did not ask for this, so I will give you a choice. A choice, I repeat, my heart hammering so hard I can feel it in my throat. Option 1, he says, leaning back slightly, but not breaking eye contact. I make a second call. Luca stands down. Marcus Holloway lives to break another woman's heart. You go home, cry for a few more weeks, eventually move on, and in 5 years, this night is just a story about a weird encounter at a bar. He pauses, letting that sink in, then leans closer until I can feel the heat radiating from him. Option 2, he continues, his voice dropping lower. You let me handle this. Marcus disappears. No one connects it to you. You are free of him completely. Those are not real options, I say, horrified, trembling now despite the warmth of the bar. One is you committing murder. He smiles slightly, a terrifying expression that does not reach his eyes. I commit murder regularly, Isabelle, he says, and the sound of my name in his mouth sends a new chill through me because I never told him my name, never introduced myself, which means he knew who I was before he approached. The question is whether this particular murder benefits you, he finishes. I stare at him, trying to process everything, the casual way he admits to killing people, the fact that he knows my name. The two men in dark suits I suddenly notice have positioned themselves near the exits, not obviously threatening, but clearly present, clearly his. How do you know my name? I finally ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The bar has grown quieter as midnight approaches, most patrons having left, and those remaining are focused on their own conversations, while Gerald polishes glasses at the far end of the bar, deliberately not looking our direction. The rain outside has intensified, creating a wall of sound that makes our conversation feel isolated, intimate in a way that terrifies me. Dante, he says instead of answering my question. My name is Dante Moretti, and I own this bar, along with half the businesses in this city, some legitimate and some less so. You still have not answered my question, I say, trying to hold on to some shred of control in this situation that has spiraled so far beyond my understanding. How do you know who I am? He signals Gerald, who brings him a drink without being asked, amber liquid in a crystal glass, and Dante takes a sip before responding. I make it my business to know things, he says finally. People, places, connections, threats, opportunities. But you did not answer my question either, Isabelle. Option 1 or option 2. I cannot, I start, then stop because I do not even know what I am trying to say. You are asking me to choose whether someone lives or dies. That is not a choice. That is, I struggle for the word. That is playing God. He takes another sip of his drink, patient, and I realize he will wait all night if necessary for my answer. That time means nothing to a man like him. Marcus wasted 4 years of your life, he says quietly. Proposed to you while sleeping with another woman, humiliated you in public. And from what you described, he does not seem particularly remorseful about any of it. I am not saying he deserves to die for that, I say, but even as the words come out, I am not sure I believe them. Am not sure what I believe anymore. Are you not? Dante asks. And there is something in his tone, a challenge, or maybe an invitation. Because from where I sit, it seems like Marcus Holloway deserves exactly what is coming to him. The only question is, whether you want to be the one who sets that in motion. I feel trapped, the bar walls closing in despite the high ceilings, and I look toward the door, but the men in suits are still there. And anyway, where would I go? Back to the apartment I shared with Marcus. Back to my ruined life. You do not have to decide right now, Dante says, surprising me. Take the night, think about it, but know that my offer expires at dawn, because after that the situation becomes more complicated. What situation? I ask. What are you not telling me? He finishes his drink and sets the glass down with a soft click against the bar. There are things you do not need to know yet, he says. Details that would only frighten you more than you already are. But trust that I have reasons beyond simple revenge for wanting Marcus Holloway dealt with. Reasons that have nothing to do with you crying in my bar, though that certainly helped me make up my mind. The way he says it, like my tears were the final piece in some larger puzzle, should make me run. But instead, I find myself asking what reasons. What could Marcus have possibly done beyond cheating to warrant this kind of attention? Dante stands, adjusting his suit jacket, and for a moment I think he will leave without answering. But then he leans down until his mouth is close to my ear and says that Marcus James Holloway is not just a cheating boyfriend. He is also a thief who has stolen from very dangerous people, and those people are coming for him. Whether I make a choice or not, the only difference is whether I get to decide how it happens and whether I want protection when it all falls apart. Then he is stepping back, pulling out his wallet and leaving several bills on the bar, far more than my drinks cost, and telling me to go home or get a hotel, but not to go back to that apartment tonight. And before I can ask why he is walking away, his men falling into step behind him, and I am left alone with Gerald in the rain and a choice I never wanted to make. My mind spinning with questions about who Dante Moretti really is, and how he knows so much about Marcus and what he meant about dangerous people and protection, but most of all, with the horrible realization that some part of me, some dark, angry part I did not know existed, wants to choose option 2, wants Marcus to disappear, wants to be free. I choose option 1. I tell him when he returns to the bar 20 minutes later, having given me space to think, though I suspect he never actually left the building, just retreated to wherever men like him retreat to, while waiting for broken women to make impossible decisions. Call off your man, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Marcus is a cheating bastard, but he does not deserve to die for it. Dante nods once, pulls out his phone, and makes a brief call in Italian, and I feel something like relief wash over me, even though I know I have just refused something I might regret later, some dark form of justice that part of me craved. I need to go, I say, standing too quickly, and the room tilts violently, the whiskey and emotional exhaustion catching up to me all at once. I feel myself falling, and then strong hands catch me, Dante's arms around my waist, pulling me against his chest, and for a moment we are frozen like that, my hands pressed against his shoulders, his face close enough that I can see gold flecks in his green eyes. Something electric passes between us, a charge that has nothing to do with the crisis and everything to do with the way his hands feel against my body, steady and warm and possessive in a way that should alarm me, but does not. He helps me back onto the stool, his touch gentle, despite the obvious strength in his hands, and tells me I cannot go home, not to the apartment I shared with Marcus, not tonight. I start to argue, to say I have nowhere else to go, and I refuse to let Marcus drive me from my own home. But Dante cuts me off with information that changes everything. Marcus is not just a cheating boyfriend, he says, his voice low and urgent. His family's investment firm has been laundering money for several criminal organizations, including rivals of my family, and Marcus himself has been skimming from those accounts. I stare at him, trying to process this new reality, and he continues without waiting for my response. As of 6 hours ago, he was marked for death by the Konstantin crime family, the Russian organization he stole from, and if I go back to that apartment, I will be there when they come for him. You are lying, I say, but even as the words leave my mouth, I know he is not, can see the truth in his eyes and the grim set of his jaw. Why would I lie? Dante asks, pulling out his phone again. I told you there were things you did not need to know, complications that went beyond simple revenge, and this is what I meant. He shows me photos on his screen, surveillance images that make my stomach drop, Marcus meeting with men in expensive suits outside buildings I do not recognize, Marcus at a computer accessing what the timestamp identifies as offshore accounts, Marcus withdrawing large sums of cash from a bank I have never heard him mention. The timestamps span the last 6 months, I realize with growing horror, the exact period he was seeing Victoria, which means while I thought he was working late or traveling for business, he was actually stealing from criminals and apparently planning for this moment. The final photo is timestamped from this evening, just hours ago, and shows Marcus and Victoria loading suitcases into his car in the parking garage of our building. My building. The place I still think of as home even though clearly it never was. He was not planning to talk tomorrow, Dante says quietly, watching my face as I process the image. He was planning to run, to disappear with Victoria and the money he stole, and leave you behind to face whatever consequences came looking for him. The betrayal hits me fresh and sharp, worse somehow than the infidelity, because this proves Marcus was not just cheating, he was using me, keeping me around as cover or misdirection, or maybe just because it was convenient while he built his exit strategy with another woman. How long have you known about Marcus? I ask, still staring at the photos, at evidence of a life I knew nothing about. Long enough, Dante says, and I look up sharply at the non-answer. That is not an answer, I say, anger cutting through the shock. Have you been watching me? Is that why you were at the bar tonight? This was not coincidence. He meets my eyes directly, no hesitation or deflection, and says no, it was not coincidence, that he knew Marcus Holloway was stealing from the Constantines, knew they would move against him soon. But he did not know about me until 3 days ago, when his people did a full background check on everyone in Marcus's life. I saw your photo in the file, he continues, something shifting in his expression. Read about your pastry chef career, your awards, the restaurant where you work, saw that you lived with him, and thought this woman has no idea what she is sleeping next to every night. So you came to the bar to warn me, I say, my voice breaking, because this means he knew. He knew everything, and he approached me anyway, made his offer anyway. He shakes his head slightly. I came to the bar for a business meeting, he says. Seeing you there, crying in that dress, looking like your world just ended. His jaw tightens and he stops, and I wait, needing to hear the rest. I could not walk away, he finally says. You need to come with me, he continues before I can respond. To my home, somewhere safe, somewhere the Constantines will not think to look for you. Stay until the situation with Marcus is resolved one way or another, and then decide what you want to do with your life. I should refuse, should insist I can take care of myself. But the truth is, I have nowhere to go and no idea who to trust. And at least Dante has been honest with me in his way. Has shown me the danger I am in, rather than leaving me ignorant. Fine, I say, hating how small my voice sounds. But just until I figure out what to do next, this is not permanent. He nods, standing and offering me his hand, and I take it, letting him help me up. And this time, when the room spins slightly, he keeps his hand at my elbow, steady and warm, guiding me toward the exit. The men in dark suits I noticed earlier fall into step behind us, clearly his security, and I wonder what my life has become that I am leaving a bar with a self-admitted criminal and his armed guards, because my boyfriend turned out to be an even worse criminal who is about to be murdered by Russians. The rain has not let up when we step outside, and a black Mercedes pulls up immediately, as if it was waiting for some signal I did not see. The driver, an older man with silver hair, nods at Dante, and another man, younger and broader, opens the back door for us. This is Vincent, Dante says, indicating the driver, and Luca, indicating the man holding the door, and I nod at them both, not knowing what else to do. Inside the Mercedes, it smells like leather and Dante's cologne, something expensive with notes of cedar and bergamot, and the vehicle is perfectly climate controlled, silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Dante maintains a respectful distance from me on the back seat, despite the confined space, and I am grateful because I cannot handle any more physical contact right now, cannot handle the way my body reacts to his proximity when my mind is still trying to process everything. We drive through the glittering downtown core, past the restaurant where I saw Marcus with Victoria, past the apartment building where my things still sit in closets and drawers, past my entire life, and into an area I have only seen from a distance, the exclusive Riverside Heights neighborhood where estates sit behind iron gates and manicured hedges. The rain continues, blurring the city lights into abstract paintings against the windows, and I watch the city pass by, feeling like I am sliding into a different world with every mile. Dante makes several calls during the drive, speaking in rapid Italian that I cannot fully follow, but catch enough words to understand he is issuing orders, securing locations, gathering information on the Constantine family's movements. He is methodical, efficient, and I realize this is what he does. This is his world, managing threats and assets and situations with the same calm focus most people bring to their morning coffee. We pull up to a gate that opens automatically, drive down a long, curved driveway lined with trees, and then his home comes into view, and I cannot help the small gasp that escapes me. It is a modern masterpiece of glass and stone, all clean lines and dramatic angles, set on what must be 3 acres overlooking the river, and even in the rain and darkness, I can see it is stunning. Security is everywhere once you know to look for it. Cameras and motion sensors and guards at the gate we just passed, discreet but obvious. Vincent parks and Luca opens my door, offering his hand to help me out, and I step into the rain for the brief moment it takes to reach the covered entrance. Inside, the house is even more impressive, all carefully chosen furniture that manages to feel both luxurious and lived in, expensive art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows that would showcase the river view if it were not the middle of the night. The space smells faintly of coffee and books, surprising touches of normalcy in what should feel like a fortress, and I find myself wondering who Dante Moretti really is beneath the suits and the threats and the casual admissions of murder. A woman appears, older, kind-faced, and Dante introduces her as Maria, his housekeeper, and asks her to show me to the guest suite and provide me with anything I need. Maria smiles at me warmly, as if she is used to Dante bringing home crying women in the middle of the night, though something tells me this is not a regular occurrence. The guest suite she leads me to is larger than my entire former apartment, all soft grays and whites, with an ensuite bathroom that has a tub I could swim in, and a shower with enough jets to qualify as a car wash. There are clothes. In the closet, Maria tells me, should be your size and fresh towels in the bathroom, and if I need anything at all, I should just pick up the phone and dial 0. How does he know my size, I ask before I can stop myself, and Maria just smiles and says, Mr. Moretti is very thorough in his preparations, then leaves me alone in this beautiful strange room in this beautiful strange house, and I sink onto the edge of the bed and finally let myself cry. Not for Marcus, who I am starting to realize I never really loved, but for myself, for the person I was yesterday, who had no idea her entire life was built on lies, who thought the biggest problem she faced was setting a wedding date, who believed in happy endings and honest men and a future that made sense. That person is gone now, I realize, replaced by someone who knows too much, who has seen behind the curtain of the normal world into something darker and more complicated. And I am not sure if I can ever go back to not knowing, to believing in the safe, comfortable illusions that got me through the first 28 years of my life. I shower eventually, standing under water so hot it turns my skin pink, washing away the bar and the rain, and the feeling of Marcus's betrayal. And when I emerge, I find one of the outfits from the closet fits perfectly: soft lounge pants and a cashmere sweater that probably costs more than my monthly rent. And I wonder again how Dante knew, how long he has been planning for this moment, if any of tonight was really chance, or if he has been orchestrating everything from the beginning. I should be angry about that, should feel manipulated, but instead I just feel tired, hollowed out, and strangely safe here in this fortress of glass and stone, with a man I barely know who has promised to protect me from dangers I am only beginning to understand. The next 2 days pass in a strange, suspended reality where I exist in Dante's world, but do not quite belong to it yet. Watching from the edges as he conducts business in multiple languages, as men in expensive suits come and go through his home office, as he moves through his days with the calm efficiency of someone who has built an empire on precision and control. He maintains a respectful distance from me, never pushing, never demanding, though I catch him watching me with that intense focus whenever we are in the same room, his green eyes tracking my movements like I am something he is trying to understand, or maybe something he is trying not to reach for. Maria brings me meals and asks if I need anything with a warmth that suggests she genuinely cares. And I spend hours in the guest suite that is larger than my entire former apartment, wearing clothes that fit perfectly because somehow Dante knows my exact size, and I try not to think too hard about what that means, about how much research he did, how long he has been aware of me. During meals we share, Dante tells me about his world in pieces, never overwhelming me with too much at once: the legitimate businesses like the restaurants and bars and real estate holdings and an art gallery in the downtown arts district, and the less legitimate ones he describes as protection services and gambling and import-export, with a slight smile that tells me those are polite euphemisms for things I probably do not want to know the details of yet. He tells me about his father, Antonio Moretti, who built the organization from nothing, came to this country with only ambition and ruthlessness, who was killed 5 years ago in a power struggle that Dante ultimately won, though he does not elaborate on what winning cost him. I listen and absorb and feel myself sliding further into this world, with every conversation, every shared meal, every moment I spend in this house that feels both like a fortress and somehow like home, in a way my apartment with Marcus never did. On the second evening, I am in the living room with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river when the news breaks, the flat-screen television Maria left on showing breaking news about Marcus James Holloway and Victoria Reeves found dead in a hotel room across the state border, apparent murder-suicide according to the police report. And I feel my breath catch not because I am devastated, but because I feel almost nothing. Just a strange, detached observation that this is the man I was supposed to marry, the woman he chose instead. And now they are both gone. Dante appears in the doorway, and I see his reaction, the subtle tightening around his eyes, the way he nods once to Luca, who is standing nearby. And I know instantly it was not suicide. The Constantines got to them first, just like Dante said they would. I should feel something, I think, should cry or scream or collapse. But instead, I just stand there staring at the screen showing Marcus's photo, the professional headshot from his company website, where he looks successful and trustworthy, and nothing like the criminal who was stealing from Russian mobsters while planning to abandon me to face whatever consequences came looking. That night, I cannot sleep, my mind spinning with too many thoughts, and I wander through Dante's house in the darkness until I see light coming from under the door of his study. I push it open without knocking and find him sitting at his desk drinking scotch and staring at surveillance monitors showing various properties, warehouses and storefronts, and what looks like a shipping dock, his jacket discarded and his shirt sleeves rolled up, looking more human than I have seen him since that first night at the bar. He looks up when I enter, but does not seem surprised, just watches as I close the door behind me and lean against it, gathering courage for the confrontation I came here to have. "Did you know this would happen?" I ask, my voice sharper than I intend. "Is this why you brought me to your home?" Not to protect me, but because you knew Marcus's death would traumatize me, and you wanted to be there for the aftermath. He sets down his glass carefully, his expression unreadable in the amber light from the desk lamp and the flickering glow from the fireplace that crackles in the corner. Yes, he says simply, and the honesty of it hits me harder than a lie would have. I knew the Constantines were close to finding Marcus, suspected he might run, which would accelerate their timeline, and I wanted you away from the situation, somewhere I could ensure your safety. But you did not order it, I press, needing to understand. You let them kill him. He stands, moving around the desk toward me, and I should step back, but I am pressed against the door already. I pulled my own people back, he admits. Let the Constantines handle it. Knew the outcome would be the same, but this way my family's hands stay clean. No connection to you, no reason for them to look in your direction. You manipulated everything, I say, anger finally breaking through the numbness. The bar, the choice you gave me, bringing me here, it was all orchestration. Yes, he says again, not even trying to deny it, and I feel something crack in my chest. You are not even going to deny it, I ask, and he moves closer, close enough that I can smell his cologne and the scotch on his breath. I do not lie to you, Isabelle, he says, his voice low. Not about this. I saw an opportunity to bring you into my world, and I took it. I am not sorry. Why? I demand, searching his face for answers. Why me? You do not even know me. His jaw tightens, and something shifts in his eyes, that iron control he maintains so carefully showing cracks. I know you get up at 4 in the morning to make pastries from scratch, he says, his voice rough. I know you won awards for a chocolate sculpture you created for a charity auction. I know you visit your mother's grave every Sunday with fresh lilies because they were her favorite. I know you stayed with a man who did not deserve you because you are loyal to a fault. I know. He stops, jaw clenched, and I am barely breathing now. You know what? I whisper, and he meets my eyes with an intensity that makes my knees weak. I know that from the moment I saw your photo, something shifted in me, he says. And when I saw you crying at that bar, I knew I would burn down the entire city before I let anyone hurt you again. The confession hangs in the air between us, raw and honest, and more vulnerability than I have seen from this man who commands criminal empires with cold precision. And something in me breaks, or maybe finally comes together. You manipulated me, I say, but the anger has drained from my voice, replaced by something else, something that feels like understanding or acceptance, or maybe just desire. You brought me here knowing I would have nowhere else to go, knowing Marcus would die, knowing I would need you. He nods, not denying any of it, and I realize I am not actually angry anymore. Or maybe I am angry and attracted and terrified all at once. Everything tangled together until I cannot separate one feeling from another. This is crazy, I say, but I am moving toward him instead of away. You are a criminal. I am a pastry chef. This does not make sense. Nothing about us makes sense, he says, his hands coming up to frame my face, careful and controlled even now. But tell me you do not feel it too. I feel it, I admit, unable to lie when he is looking at me like that, like I am something precious and dangerous all at once. I am terrified of it. Good, he says, his thumb tracing my lower lip. You should be terrified, because I meant what I said that first night. Whoever hurt you dies, and I am including myself in that promise, Isabelle. If I ever hurt you, you have permission to destroy me. The words should sound melodramatic, but they do not. They sound like a vow. And I am standing on my tiptoes before I consciously decide to move, closing the distance between us, my hands finding his shoulders. And when our lips meet, it is not gentle. It is all the pent-up emotion and danger of the past 2 days. Everything I have been holding back crashing through my defenses. He catches me, his hands in my hair and against my back, pulling me closer like I might disappear. And I feel him lift me, setting me on the edge of his desk, monitors and papers and Scotch glass pushed aside without care. His hands frame my face like I am something that might break, and his kiss is hungry and controlled and devastating all at once. And I am kissing him back with an intensity I did not know I possessed, my fingers tangled in his hair, my legs wrapping around his waist, pulling him closer. We break apart, breathing hard, and I realize my fingers are still tangled in his hair, and his thumb is tracing my lower lip, and we are staring at each other in the firelight and amber glow from the lamp. This is crazy, I say again, but I am not letting go of him. You are a criminal. I am a pastry chef. This does not make sense. Nothing about us makes sense, he repeats, his voice rougher now. But tell me you do not feel it too. I feel it, I say, and his mouth is on mine again, before I can say anything else. And this time when we kiss, it feels like falling, or maybe like finally landing, and I realize with startling clarity that I was never truly in love with Marcus. I was in love with the idea of the life we were supposed to build, the safety and normalcy and predictability of it. But being with Dante has awakened something in me I did not know existed. A desire for intensity, for someone who sees me completely, for a life less ordinary than the one I had been sleepwalking through. When we pull apart again, we are both shaking slightly, and he rests his forehead against mine, his breath coming fast. Not tonight, he says, and I feel a flash of confusion and maybe hurt. Not when you are still processing everything, he continues, his hands gentle on my face. When you come to my bed, I want there to be no doubts, no questions. I want you to choose it freely, knowing exactly what it means. The restraint he is showing when I can feel how much he wants me, when I can see it in his eyes and feel it in the tension of his body, is somehow more seductive than anything else he could have done. He helps me down from the desk, his hands steadying me, and instead of leading me out, he gestures to the leather couch near the fireplace, and we sit there as the clock shows 2:17 in the morning and the house is silent except for the rain still falling outside. Tell me about your father, I say, and he looks surprised, but he answers. Tells me about Antonio Moretti, who came to this country with nothing, who built an empire through ruthlessness and strategic thinking, who taught Dante that loyalty is everything and weakness gets you killed. He died in my arms, Dante says quietly, staring into the fire. A power struggle with a rival family, an ambush I should have seen coming, and I spent the next year systematically destroying everyone involved. I should be horrified, but I am not. I am just listening, trying to understand this man who holds such violence and such gentleness inside him. How do you reconcile it? I ask. The violence and the art collection and the books and the moments of unexpected gentleness. He is quiet for a long moment. I do not, he finally says. I am not one person, Isabelle. I am all of these things simultaneously. The man who orders executions and the man who collects first editions, the man who runs criminal enterprises and the man who cannot stop thinking about a woman who makes chocolate sculptures. You do not have to reconcile me, you just have to decide if you can accept all of it. Can you, I ask, accept all of me, the broken parts and the scared parts and the part that should run from you but cannot seem to? He reaches for my hand, threading his fingers through mine. I already do, he says. From the moment I saw your photo, I have been trying to figure out what it is about you that got under my skin, and I think it is this. You are real in a way most people in my world are not. You feel things deeply and love fiercely, and when you cry, it is because something actually broke your heart, not because you are trying to manipulate someone. We talk until dawn starts to lighten the sky beyond the windows, and I learn about his mother who died when he was 12, about the art gallery he opened in her memory because she loved beauty, about the careful balance he maintains between the legitimate and criminal sides of his empire, about the loneliness of being someone everyone fears but no one truly knows. I tell him about my mother who died 2 years ago from cancer, about how Marcus proposed 6 months later, and I said yes because I was drowning in grief and he felt like stability, about my dreams of opening my own pastry shop someday, about the awards I won that made me feel like maybe I was good at something. The rain finally stops as the sun rises, and the river beyond the windows reflects pink and gold, and I realize I have just spent the night talking to a man who terrifies and attracts me in equal measure. A man who admitted to manipulating me, and somehow that honesty feels more trustworthy than all of Marcus's lies. When I finally stand to go back to my room, exhausted and emotionally wrung out, Dante catches my hand and pulls me back for one more kiss, soft this time, gentle, like a promise. Soon, he says against my lips, when you are ready, when there are no doubts. And I find myself nodding, knowing that soon is coming faster than either of us expected, knowing that I have already made my choice, even if I have not said the words yet, knowing that the person I was before walking into the velvet room 2 nights ago no longer exists, and the person I am becoming wants this dangerous, beautiful man more than she has ever wanted anything. I wake to silence and an empty house, the kind of quiet that feels wrong somehow. And when I go looking for Dante, I find only Maria, who tells me he left before dawn. An emergency with a shipment intercepted by federal agents. He will be back as soon as he can. Luca is waiting in the hallway when I emerge from the guest suite, along with 2 other guards I recognize from the security detail, and I feel caged suddenly in this beautiful house with its floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive art, like I am something precious being kept in a gilded box. I need to go to the restaurant, I tell Luca, need to talk to Chef Raymond and explain my sudden absence, possibly collect my things if I have been fired for disappearing without notice. Luca hesitates, clearly weighing his orders from Dante against my request, but eventually he nods, and 15 minutes later we are driving through morning traffic toward the restaurant that has been my second home for 3 years. The kitchen is in full mid-morning prep when we arrive, the familiar organized chaos of chopping and measuring, and the smell of baking bread and vanilla that always meant safety to me, and my colleagues greet me warmly, asking where I have been, telling me they have been worried. Chef Raymond appears from his office, his expression a mix of concern and relief, and he pulls me aside saying we should talk privately, that he heard about Marcus's death on the news, and assumed that was why I had been absent, that I should take all the time I need. His office is small and cluttered with invoices and recipe notes and a few personal items, and as he talks about giving me space to grieve, I find my eyes drawn to a photo on his desk, a casual snapshot of Raymond with another man at what looks like a restaurant opening, both of them smiling, arms around each other's shoulders. The other man is someone I recognize from the surveillance photos Dante showed me, one of the Constantine family's senior members, the same sharp features and cold eyes. Chef Raymond, I say slowly, interrupting whatever he is saying about bereavement leave. Who is this man in the photo with you? His expression changes instantly, warmth draining away to be replaced by something guarded and calculating, and he asks why. What does it matter? You are with them, I say, realization dawning cold and terrible. The Constantines, you have been. How long? He looks at me for a long moment, and something like regret crosses his face. I am sorry, Isabelle, he says quietly. You were never supposed to be involved. Marcus was stupid stealing from them. Now you pay for his mistakes. Before I can process what he means, the restaurant's back door bursts open with a crash that makes everyone in the kitchen freeze, and 4 armed men enter, moving with military precision, not rushing but deliberate and controlled in a way that is somehow more terrifying than chaos would be. They are Constantine enforcers, and I know this immediately from the way Luca and the other guards react, hands going to weapons, bodies shifting to defensive positions, but we are outnumbered and caught in a space with civilians, my colleagues who are staring in shock and fear. Raymond steps back, making no move to help me or interfere, just watching with that same regretful expression, And I understand that all of it was false, the mentoring and the awards recommendations and attending my mother's funeral. Or maybe not false, but complicated by loyalties I never knew existed. The lead enforcer is a man in his mid-40s with a scarred face and dead eyes, and he speaks with a thick Russian accent, telling Luca to stand down or the woman dies, and I feel cold metal pressed against my temple, someone's arm around my waist, dragging me backward. Luca's face is anguished, but he lowers his weapon, the other guards doing the same, and the enforcer, whose name I will learn is Alexei, tells me very calmly to call Dante Moretti, to tell him that if he wants me back alive, he needs to deliver $5 million and the list of Marcus's offshore accounts, information the Constantines believe Dante must have acquired when his people investigated Marcus. My hands shake as I dial the number Dante gave me for emergencies, and when he answers, I can hear tension in his voice, asking if I am all right. What is wrong? The gun presses harder against my head, and I say what Alexei tells me to say, that I have been taken by the Constantines, that they want money and information, that they will kill me if he does not comply. There is a pause, and then Dante's voice changes, becomes cold and emotionless. The voice of the crime boss, not the man who held my face in his hands and promised to protect me. Put Alexei on, he says. No urgency, no emotion, just calculation. And I feel something crack inside my chest as I hand the phone to my captor. The conversation is brief, a mixture of English and Russian that I cannot fully follow, but I catch enough to understand they are negotiating like I am a commodity, an item being bartered. And when Alexei asks directly if this woman is worth $5 million to him, Dante responds with business, I will consider your terms. No declaration that he will come for me, no threat of what he will do to them, just cold pragmatic consideration of whether I am worth the price. Isabelle, listen to me, Dante starts to say, but Alexei snatches the phone away, telling him no last words, that he will hear from them in 6 hours, with a location for exchange. They take me out through the back door, past the dumpsters and loading dock where I used to take cigarette breaks with the other kitchen staff before I quit smoking, and shove me into a black van that smells like cleaning chemicals and fear. Luca tries to follow, but one of the enforcers hits him hard across the face with a gun, and he goes down, blood streaming from his nose. And then we are driving, and I am trying to memorize turns and street names through the small windows, but everything blurs together. The warehouse they take me to is on the industrial south side, all cold concrete and rusted metal, and Alexei tells me almost conversationally as they tie me to a chair that Dante will know this location, that it is neutral territory where deals are often negotiated, as if this is just another business transaction. The room smells of industrial decay and old oil and dampness, and my chair sits in the center of a large empty space that makes me feel exposed and small, like a specimen under examination. Hours pass and I catalog everything I can see. The number of guards, which varies between 3 and 5 as they rotate shifts, their weapons, which include handguns and what looks like an automatic rifle leaning against the far wall, the layout of the room with its exits, and the broken windows high up near the ceiling that let in weak afternoon light. I can hear the river nearby, boats passing, the normal world continuing while I am trapped in this nightmare, and I try to stay calm, try to think like Dante would think, strategically rather than emotionally. But it is hard when my wrists are bound tight enough to cut circulation, and fear keeps trying to overwhelm rational thought. Alexei sits nearby smoking cigarettes and watching me with those dead eyes, and after several hours he comments that my Dante has not called back, that this is not a good sign for me. He will come, I say, my voice steady despite the terror running through my veins, and Alexei laughs, a sound without humor. You believe this? He asks, even after hearing how he speaks of you, like item in negotiation. You do not know him, I say, but doubt is creeping in because what if Alexei is right? What if I misread everything? What if Dante's promises were just words, and when it came to actual choice between business and me, He chose business like any smart criminal would. Alexei lights another cigarette and tells me he knows men like Dante his whole life, that they are the same, him and Dante, that they do not risk empire for woman, that pretty words mean nothing when choice comes. He has 3 daughters, he says conversationally, showing me photos on his phone like we are friends chatting, and he understands Dante's reluctance to trade resources for someone he has known only a week. That in their world, love is luxury and survival is necessity. The temperature drops as night falls, and I start shivering in my thin shirt, the one I put on this morning thinking I would just be visiting the restaurant for an hour, not being kidnapped and held in a freezing warehouse. I think about Raymond's betrayal, how he mentored me for 3 years and attended my mother's funeral and recommended me for awards, and all of it was complicated by his connection to the Constantines, and I wonder if there was ever truly separation between my safe world and the criminal one, or if I was always closer to danger than I realized. I think about Dante's cold voice on the phone. Business is business. I will consider your terms, and I feel furious at him for not immediately promising to come for me. Furious at myself for believing in someone I have known less than a week. Furious at Marcus for stealing from these people and setting this whole nightmare in motion. But beneath the fury and the fear, I am also analyzing, thinking, planning, because I am not just a victim waiting for rescue. I am someone who survived my mother's death, and Marcus's betrayal, and I will survive this too, with or without Dante Moretti. I notice the guards are getting complacent, scrolling on phones during their watch, that the automatic rifle is always in the same spot against the wall, that there is a pattern to their shift changes. I test the bonds on my wrists when no one is looking directly at me, feeling for any give, any weakness, and I make note of which guard seems most nervous, most likely to make a mistake. The restaurant kitchen where I felt safe has been revealed as just another place touched by violence. The stainless steel and vanilla smell transformed in my memory to a battlefield with flour dusting the air like smoke and knives that could be weapons. And I understand now that there is no safe place, no separation, that the moment I met Dante, my world changed irrevocably, and I can either accept that and adapt or let it destroy me. Hours stretch into what feels like days, though my phone, which they took, shows it has only been 6 hours since the call to Dante, and Alexei receives a message that makes him smile, that chilling expression that suggests he has won some negotiation. Your boyfriend is smart, man, he tells me. He knows business more important than woman. He knows 1 week. He has agreed to terms. Exchange happens in 3 hours, and you better hope he actually shows up, or my orders are to kill you and leave your body where he will find it. The words should terrify me, but instead I feel a strange calm settle over me. Acceptance maybe, or just exhaustion. And I realize that whether Dante comes or not, I have already been changed by knowing him, by stepping into his world, by choosing intensity over safety. That night at the Velvet Room. If he does not come, I will find a way to survive this, I tell myself. Will use whatever opportunity presents itself during the exchange or the transport, or whenever the guards make their inevitable mistake. And if he does come, if his cold calculation on the phone was just an act to buy time, then I will know that his promises were real, that what we shared in his study until dawn meant something beyond manipulation and desire. The warehouse grows colder and darker, and I can see my breath now. And one of the guards throws a jacket over my shoulders, a small mercy that surprises me, and I thank him quietly and see something flicker in his eyes, maybe recognition that I am a person, not just a commodity. Alexei watches this interaction and tells the guard in Russian to not get soft, that I am leverage, nothing more, and the guard steps back, but the jacket remains. I think about everything Dante told me about his father, about building empires on ruthlessness and strategic thinking, about loyalty being everything and weakness getting you killed. And I wonder if choosing me over business would be weakness in his world, if I was naive to think I could matter more than $5 million and political complications with a Russian crime family. But then I remember the way he looked at me when he said he would burn down the entire city before letting anyone hurt me again. The way his hands shook slightly when he checked me for injuries after pulling me from the bar floor. The way he admitted to manipulating me, but also to being unable to stop thinking about me from the moment he saw my photo. Those things cannot be faked, I tell myself. Or maybe they can, and I am just desperately hoping they cannot, because the alternative is too bleak to consider. 3 hours, Alexei says, checking his watch. 3 hours and we will see if your Dante values you or values his empire. If his pretty promises survive contact with reality. And I sit in my chair in the cold warehouse and mentally prepare myself for either outcome, for rescue, or for having to save myself, for discovering that I was right to choose this dangerous man or catastrophically wrong. As the 6-hour deadline approaches, Alexei receives a call, and his expression changes from bored waiting to focused attention. And when he ends the conversation, he tells me with satisfaction that Dante has agreed to the exchange, money, and account information for my safe return to take place at the warehouse in 1 hour. His men begin preparing, positioning themselves strategically around the space, and I watch their movements with the careful attention I have been maintaining all evening, cataloging positions and weapons and sightlines. Something feels wrong about their positioning, though. I cannot immediately identify what, and then I realize they are setting up for a straightforward exchange, covering the main entrance and surrounding the center of the room, where presumably Dante will approach, but there are gaps in their coverage, blind spots near the loading dock entrance, and the broken windows high on the eastern wall. Either they are overconfident, or Dante is planning something they have not anticipated, and given everything I have learned about him in the past week, I suspect the latter. Exactly at the deadline, headlights sweep across the warehouse exterior, and I hear an engine, and then a black SUV pulls through the main entrance, moving slowly and deliberately. Dante emerges alone carrying a silver briefcase, and even from across the warehouse I can see he looks calm, almost bored, like this is just another business transaction on a Tuesday evening. He is wearing the same charcoal suit from that first night at the bar, or one identical to it, and he approaches with that same predatory grace, no fear visible in his movements or expression. Alexei positions himself behind me, gun pressed to my head, and his men cover Dante from multiple angles, at least 8 weapons trained on him as he walks closer. He stops about 15 feet away, and the exchange of words is brief. Alexei demanding to see the money, Dante opening the briefcase to reveal stacks of cash that look real from where I sit. He slides it across the concrete floor toward us with a casual push of his foot, then produces a phone from his pocket, holding it up to show account information displayed on the screen. Alexei tells one of his men to check the briefcase, and the man moves forward cautiously, kneeling to examine the cash. But before he can report back, Dante's eyes meet mine, and something passes between us. A moment of perfect understanding, and he speaks a single word in Italian that I do not know but somehow comprehend. Judy, he says, and I remember him telling me that night in his study that when I come to his bed he wants there to be no doubts, and I realize this is the same thing. He is asking me to trust him with no doubts, and I drop my weight immediately, becoming dead heavy in the chair, letting gravity pull me down. In the same instant, every light in the warehouse cuts out, and the darkness is absolute and disorienting. And then gunfire erupts, muzzle flashes providing stroboscopic illumination that turns the world into frozen, violent snapshots. I feel myself being pulled backward, the chair hitting the concrete floor hard enough that pain shoots through my shoulder, and then hands are on me, cutting my bonds with quick, efficient movements. And I know without seeing that these are Dante's hands, I would recognize his touch anywhere. Stay down, his voice says in my ear, urgent and commanding. Do not move until I come for you. Then he is gone, and I am pressing myself flat against the cold concrete, eyes squeezed shut against the flashes of light, hands over my ears against the deafening sound of automatic weapons fire in an enclosed space. The firefight lasts less than 3 minutes but feels eternal, time stretching and compressing simultaneously. And I count my breaths to stay calm. 1, 2, 3, 4, in and out, trusting that Dante knows what he is doing, that his promise to protect me was real. When the lights come back on, I am behind a concrete pillar, though I do not remember being moved there, and Dante is shielding me with his body, one hand pressed against the pillar beside my head, the other holding a gun. Around the warehouse, his men have subdued or killed most of the Constantines, bodies on the concrete and weapons scattered, and I see Alexei on his knees bleeding from a shoulder wound with Luca standing over him, gun pressed to his head. Dante stands and pulls me up with him, and his hands frame my face, checking me for injuries with a precision that borders on frantic, so different from his usual iron control. "Are you hurt?" he demands, his eyes scanning every inch of me. "Did they? Tell me they did not." "I am okay," I say, my voice shaking now that the immediate danger has passed, adrenaline making my whole body tremble. "I am okay." His forehead presses against mine for a moment, and I feel him exhale, a shuddering breath that speaks of fear he would never voice aloud. And then his entire demeanor changes as he turns toward Alexei. He approaches the kneeling man and crouches to eye level, and the transformation is complete. The man who is checking me for injuries with shaking hands replaced by the crime boss who commands empires with calculated ruthlessness. "You made a mistake today, Alexei," he says, his voice like ice. "You thought you could use her against me." Alexei, bleeding but still defiant, says it was simple business, that Dante would do the same in his position. "No," Dante says, standing and looking down at him. "I would not, because I understand something you do not. There are things worth more than empires. She is one of them." Alexei looks genuinely surprised, asking if Dante is choosing a woman over peace with the Constantines, over business relationships worth millions. "I choose her over everything," Dante says, and I feel something shift in my chest at the words, at the absolute conviction in his voice. "And I will make sure your bosses understand that clearly." He offers Alexei a choice then, mirroring the choice he gave me that first night: deliver a message to the Constantine family, or die here in this warehouse. The message is simple, Isabelle Moretti, and hearing my name spoken with his surname sends another jolt through me, because I have not agreed to this, have not been asked. But somehow it feels right, is under his family's protection with all that implies, is untouchable, and any move against her is a move against him, and he will respond with overwhelming force. Alexei, who is clearly a pragmatist despite his earlier defiance, chooses to live and deliver the message. Dante lets him go, but not before making clear that the Constantines took something of his, so he is taking something of theirs. That by the end of the week, 3 of their key operations will be shut down. Will cost them approximately $15 million. That is the price for touching what is mine. His men help Alexei to his feet and escort him out, and then it is just Dante and me and Luca, and a few other guards who are already efficiently cleaning up evidence, removing bodies, erasing any trace of what happened here. Dante pulls me against him, and I go willingly, pressing my face against his chest, breathing in his cologne and the smell of gunpowder, feeling his heart beating fast beneath my cheek. "The phone call," I say, my voice muffled against his shirt. "You sounded like you did not care, like I was just—" "I know," he interrupts, his arms tightening around me. "I am sorry. I had to make them believe you were not important, that they had leverage. If they thought you mattered to me, they would have killed you immediately, and tried to hurt me that way instead." I understand the strategy now, but it does not change how much it hurt to hear that coldness in his voice, and he must sense this because he pulls back to look at my face, his hands gentle on my cheeks. "You called me Isabelle Moretti," I say. "Yes," he confirms. "I have not agreed to marry you," I point out. "You have not even asked." The ghost of a smile crosses his face. "I am not asking you to marry me, Isabelle," he says. "Not yet, but I am asking you to be mine officially." Under my family's protection, in my world that means something. It means anyone who touches you answers to me. It means you are safe. And what do I have to give up? I ask, searching his eyes. My work, my independence, my… Nothing, he interrupts again. You give up nothing unless you choose to. You keep your career, your friends, your life, but you add to it. You add me, this world, the protection and the complications that come with it. The violence, I ask quietly. The danger, that is all part of it. Yes, he says, and I appreciate the honesty even as it frightens me. I will not lie to you about that. Being with me means living with risk. It means there will be nights like tonight, moments of danger. I can minimize them, but I cannot eliminate them entirely. I am quiet for a long moment, processing everything, the rescue and the violence and the choice he is offering me. And finally, I ask when you saw me crying at the bar that first night. Did you know it would come to this? No, he says, his hand cupping my cheek. I thought I would scare off the man who hurt you, maybe make you smile, then never see you again. I did not know you would become the thing I could not walk away from. I did not know I would find someone who could look at the worst parts of my world and not run. I am not running, I say, the decision crystallizing as I speak. I am choosing this. I am choosing you. The dawn is beginning to break through the broken windows, turning the dusty air golden, and the contrast between the beauty of the sunrise and the violence that just occurred is stark, almost surreal. Dante takes my hand and leads me outside where the river is, visible, the city waking up beyond it, commuters starting their day and coffee shops opening and people walking dogs, the normal world completely unaware of the battle that just took place blocks away. We stand together watching the sunrise, his arm around my shoulders, my head against his chest, and I feel simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated, like I have survived something that should have broken me, but instead made me stronger. 3 months later, I am standing in my own pastry shop, a beautiful storefront in the arts district that Dante financed, but that I run entirely myself, and the line wraps around the block for our grand opening. Dante sits at a corner table conducting business on his phone, but keeping me in his line of sight always. That protective awareness that has become so familiar, I barely notice it anymore. A customer becomes aggressive about the wait time, raising his voice at my young assistant Emily, who looks near tears, and I see Dante's entire demeanor change, phone lowered, body tensing, and then he is standing and crossing the room in 3 strides. The aggressive customer takes one look at him and suddenly decides he is not that hungry after all, mumbling an apology and leaving quickly. I shake my head with a mix of exasperation and fondness, and during a quiet moment, I bring Dante a slice of chocolate cake, my award-winning recipe, and sit with him. You cannot threaten everyone who is rude to my staff, I say, but I am smiling. Watch me, he replies, tasting the cake and closing his eyes in appreciation. This is perfect. You are extraordinary. I know, I say, and I mean it. The confidence in my voice, something I never had with Marcus, never had before this whole experience transformed me. Then softer. Thank you. For this. For everything. His hand finds mine across the table. You earned this yourself, he says. I just made sure no one could stop you. Through the shop window, I can see Luca and 2 other guards, positioned casually outside, protection that is now so familiar I barely notice it anymore, and a black SUV parked at the curb, my new normal. Any regrets? Dante asks, the question serious despite the casual setting. I think back to that night at the bar, crying over a man who never deserved my tears. Then I look at Dante, dangerous and powerful and somehow mine. Not a single one, I say, and mean it completely, because the person I was then and the person I am now are fundamentally different, and I would not go back even if I could, would not trade this intensity and danger and fierce protection for the safe, comfortable illusions I used to believe in. We sit together in my shop, the normal world and the dangerous one coexisting in this moment, and I realize I have built something beautiful with his support, something that is entirely mine, and he has found something he thought he had lost, someone to protect not out of obligation, but out of love. And the promise he made that first night has transformed from a threat of violence into something else entirely, a vow to ensure nothing and no one ever makes me cry like that again. And I know with absolute certainty that he will keep that promise for the rest of our lives.